Hey, thanks for joining us for another episode of Powerful on Purpose podcast, where we talk to amazing women who are using their stories to build a business and impact lives around the globe, right? Today, I'm super excited to have Miranda Lee with us. And because Miranda is a wellness entrepreneur, that word was difficult for me this morning, who's transforming how people and families, I love this part of it, right? Navigate stress. So after seeing anxiety overwhelm parents and kids in her community, she dove into mindfulness, neuroscience, and positive psychology. And now she brings those tools to not only businesses, but people in her community and online. So like a warm hug, if you think about it, right? So her approach is called finding your pause, not PAWS, but PAUSE. And she teaches simple science-backed mindful moments that calm the nervous system, reduce emotional reactivity, and build resilience. And we definitely need more of that across the board. So thank you for joining us, Miranda. Super excited to have you.
Thank you so much for having me on, Leslie.
Absolutely. Well, as we talked before too, I always like to start with people's stories. What is it that made you go, wait a minute, I got to combine neuroscience, mindfulness, and positive psychology to start helping people, right?
Oh my gosh. Well, I don't think I was thinking like that when I first began this journey at all. And like many people, I think my story is very personal. I've actually been practicing meditation and yoga since I was a teenager because my mum took me to classes. So I've sort of had that in my background um, I worked in marketing and advertising for a long time. Um, and that was helping me with stress in that kind of environment. And then I had children, and things changed a bit because I didn't have that 20 minutes of silence time for myself anymore. I had little people crawling over me or needing me. So that kind of part of my life got left aside, and I was finding myself getting more and more stressed and anxious, trying to balance work and and parenting. And there was this one sort of, in retrospect, an aha moment. At the time, I think I didn't realize it, but I live in the Northeast, and we have pretty bad winters. And this was when my kids were little, a toddler and a baby, and I was I had to get them dropped off to daycare and then turn around and get to work. And getting them to daycare in the morning, I was trying to dress them in their snowsuits, which is a bit like dressing a monkey if you've ever tried to dress a small kid, and hats and boots and gloves and everything. And two of them who did not want to go outside because it was cold and they wanted to stay inside. And I got them out to the car and I strapped them in their car seat. I always say this because they were safe. And I closed the passenger door to start to drive off, and I was just about to open the driver's door, and then I had this moment of complete overwhelm. Like, I just don't know how to do this anymore because I felt like I'd done my day's work and I hadn't even started. But I think because I had this long history with meditation and yoga already in my life, I knew to take a moment to pause. Um, and I walked around my car, and it was a sunny day. It was cold, it was snowy, but it was a sunny day. And I did what in retrospect I now call the five senses walk, which is when you walk around and you look around you. I looked at probably the sun shining on the snow. I maybe heard the birds singing, and I felt my body walking, my feet on the ground. And by the time I got back to the driver's side of the car to drive off, I felt like I could deal with dropping my kids off at daycare. I didn't have that huge overwhelm. I still felt pretty stressed and anxious about my day ahead, but I felt like I could cope. And, you know, like I said, I didn't really understand it at the time, but I knew something had shifted for me. So I started doing that every single time I had to take my kids anywhere. And that was kind of what I call the start of my pause practice. And it started allowing me to feel much less stressed, much less anxious, because even though it was a walk around the car, I had time for myself. And latterly, when I started to study neuroscience and positive psychology, I realized what I was doing was resetting my nervous system. And it was actually really, really beneficial for my mental health. And I ended up feeling a lot more contented with my life and a lot more of a present parent, which is kind of what I wanted. And so that's really the beginning of the journey. I started teaching other people what I was learning along the way. And now it's kind of developed into a business where, like you finally introduced me, I work in corporate settings, healthcare settings, and as well in community settings to teach these skills to others.
That's awesome. I think that's great. And such simple things. I think it's too bad we're not taught nervous system, anything about it, or reset in school, right? Um, and I love your story because it is really some of those simple things that we tend to overlook and think, oh, I don't have 5 minutes to walk around the car. Really? We all got 5 minutes to walk around the car, right? Or start incorporating those little tiny practices in that make such a huge difference. So yeah, what a powerful story. Um, what are you fired up right now about in your business? What is something you're doing or new program that you're thinking about that you're really excited about?
So I'm really excited about my retreats. I have day retreats. I live just outside New York City. I have day retreats and I have half day retreats and I have weekend retreats at the moment. And I'm about to do an international retreat in the fall next year. And what I find is I get people gathered together in a community to learn these skills and to learn from each other. I learn from them, they can learn from me. And what we do, why it's so exciting for me is what I'm seeing is that these skills, people are taking them back to their own communities, their own families. Um, what I find is if I train someone in a corporate setting in their team, they then have these tools to say to someone when they're getting dysregulated, hey, just take a moment. It's okay. Or, if someone's in a family setting and, for example, they've got their kids asking them something at the same time, or they hear them fighting, they know how to calm themselves down and modeling that to their children. So you were saying we don't learn these tools necessarily in school, but we can learn them in whatever environment we're in. And this is how I feel like we're starting to bring these tools out into communities, and there's an amazing ripple effect.
Yeah, absolutely. Without a doubt. Yeah, somebody and I were just talking about that with membership. She's taking a leadership thing with membership, right? And I was like, you just need to model the behavior you want from the rest of the people. And because really you're talking about monkeys, we're kind of like monkeys too, in the sense like we watch other people and go, oh, that's working for them. I'm going to try that.
100%, which is why I think learning emotional intelligence skills before you are in a leadership role, but certainly when you're in a leadership role, is so important because people learn by modeling far more than by taught or training.
Right.
And if we're talking about nervous system regulation, keeping a calm environment, especially when there's a challenge at stake, that is something that we learn so much more from someone who's in a leadership role and using their skills to keep themselves calm. Yeah.
Right. Right. Do you have, I know you talked about the walking around the car, but is there some, I'll call it for lack of a better word, tool in nervous system reset that's like your favorite or you go to, or, yeah.
Yes. I mean, there's tons, and it really
Sure.
depends on the situation that I'm in. So if we're just talking about a leadership role, most of them are around taking a pause. So a really good one is called the stop practice. It's used pretty widely. It literally is, you feel that And also you have to be aware of what it feels like when you're starting to get dysregulated. So I teach people, okay, so what does it feel like to get stressed in the body, right? Because we often
Right.
think about stress in the mind or what's actually happening. But no, what we need to think about is, what do you start to feel like in your body when you get stressed? So for example, does your chest start to feel tight? That's one example, or your jaw starts to tighten. When that happens, stop. Stop. And then the T of stop is take a pause, take a moment. O is observe. So what is happening? Oh, my chest is getting tight. Oh, so I need to take a moment to breathe into my chest to release that tension. Or, oh, I really need the bathroom because I've been dealing with this crisis and I haven't got. It's simple things, but actually a lot of us, aren't aware, right? And then P is proceed with that knowledge. So it can be really simple. It takes not even 30 seconds, and it makes a tremendous difference because what you're doing is you're starting to proceed with a more regulated nervous system. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And when you say, well, I know the research is out there to support this, that the vast majority of people like never regulate their nervous system. So we're on high anxiety all the time and then feeding ourselves caffeine, sugar, not getting exercise, right? So just like creating this perfect storm of disease, stress, whatever it is.
Yes, it's unfortunate, and it's a leading cause of so much physical health issues and also mental health issues like constant chronic stress. I talk about this a lot on my retreats and with my students. You can start the day like I did. If I hadn't taken the pause, I got into that driver's seat. I probably would have been snappy with my children. I'd have dropped them off. I'd have run back to my meeting, and I'd been probably quite stressed as I go into my first meeting of the day. And then it kind of just continues. And in terms of your nervous system, what's happening is it's getting more and more dysregulated. You're pumping in more and more stress hormones through the day. And taking that moment to pause allows that nervous system to just recalibrate, resettle, allows the pumping of the stress hormones to have a moment to just seep out. And you can end up, and it doesn't take very much time. It's if you think about the nervous system in waves of going in and out of needing, parasympathetic nervous system, so doing stuff, going down into more of a rest and digest. We want to be on a wave all through the day. We don't want to be on an upward trajectory all the day of never going into that moment of rest and digest in our nervous system. And when we can, it has so many benefits, so many. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, speak a little bit to all the different benefits that people could, even taking just that 5-minute break, right? A
Yeah.
couple times a
So,
day.
yeah, I mean, if we lessen our stress burden, I mean, I speak to physicians and so many. I was speaking to a specialist in gut health the other day, and she was explaining to me she thought that about 95% of the issues she's seeing with people's digestive issues was due to stress. So that's just one area. I know there's a lot of research to show that, chronic stress is a leading cause of heart disease, diabetes, and it just goes through whatever you've got. So, and if you think about the nervous system in the development of the physical body, it's actually the one of the first systems of the body that's developed. It's sort of like the core underlying level, and then the other systems of the body sit on top of it. So if we can keep a healthy and regulated nervous system, we're much more likely to be able to keep a healthy and regulated rest of our systems. Um, so I work in my local hospital working in cancer recovery with patients because, cancer treatment can be very traumatic, extremely stressful. And once people are cleared from, cancer treatment, they can come to me and we can start to work on re-regulation of nervous system, to try and prevent recurrence of cancer. Yeah.
Sure. Absolutely. Cool. Well, what, actually, like I would love, because I think this is an important aspect of what you do, is the family thing, really modeling and helping kids start that, right? Um, so speak to us a little bit about how you work with families, or what type of resources you might have for a family.
So, I think it's really about working with someone within the family and getting them to start using the tools. And once that happens, it sort of, like I was saying, it ripples out. You don't actually. So, for example, I work with some families. Perhaps one of the children is experiencing some anxiety, um, and I might not even work with the child, although oftentimes I do. I might just work with one of the parents, and we'll work with, what do you do when your child is experiencing extreme anxiety because, or a panic attack, or how do you model calm and regulation in that moment? Because children are looking for the adults in their family, for regulation. And it's really quite challenging, when you've got someone that you love getting dysregulated, to not also get dysregulated yourself, right? And trying to calm them down, you might actually be making them more stressed. Little things like take a deep breath. Well, what does that mean to a child, right? Well, actually just modeling it in front of them, breathing into your belly, that's enough oftentimes to calm a child down before they get very dysregulated. I mean, I'm talking about like when it's the start of the the escalation. That can be enough to calm someone down, or simply to hug them when you're regulated, so that you're using your nervous system to actually soothe them. So that's one way I work with families. I do also go into, I have run workshops for children, and or going into schools. I did that for a little bit too. And your work, a school environment, there's a lot of energy. So walking into a classroom, um, and with a calm nervous system, you almost don't have to say anything. You just change the energy of the space, and you can help support the educator in there to learn these tools themselves as well. So yeah, so it's
Absolutely.
so
Yeah.
it's coming through in lots of different ways, I'd say. Yeah.
Cool. Cool. Well, I think you've given a lot of great steps for somebody who maybe isn't sure how to start, right?
Mm.
And you also have a free gift, some bi-monthly meditation classes. Want to give us a taste of that, or an encouragement if somebody's sitting on the fence?
Oh yes, of course. So I run so just at the end of the year and the beginning of the year, I think is a really good time. A lot of people are thinking about their intentions going forward. So if you're thinking that perhaps bringing some more pause time or mindfulness into your life is something you're looking for, I've got these bi-monthly classes coming up. You can register them on my website, and it's just half an hour, um, every 2 weeks, just to come together in community and to find a moment to pause. And I'll teach a little bit of the tool, and then we'll do the practice together. So it's a simple
Awesome.
way just to try it out for yourself. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Yeah, that's great. And we will put the link in the show notes, so you'll have that. Is there any last words like you'd want to share with our audience, Miranda?
I mean, just simply that, these are very simple practices. They're just about starting, and they can make a huge difference to your life, both your physical health, your mental health, and your productivity, right? So I just say start. And if you need some help along the way, come to me. Yeah.
There you go. I love that. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm a huge fan of nervous system reset, breath work, all that. So I can't encourage people enough, if you have any interest, to reach out to Miranda or anyone else. It's like we have so much power that we're not using with our bodies. So just my own little shout out, right? And be
Yeah.
sure and subscribe so you don't miss more great conversations with amazing women like Miranda, who are using their story to build businesses and change the world. So thanks, and we'll see you next time.